The new normal in philanthropic organizations, right now on the Leadership Voice. Welcome to the Leadership Voice. I'm your host, Jay Barbuto. Today's show is about the new normal in philanthropic organizations. Joining us are Sloane Keane, CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Orange County and Inland Empire, and Susan B. Parks, President and CEO of Orange County United Way. We also have a leadership lesson being delivered by Chethan and Srikant. But let's start things off with today's quote of the day. Today's quote comes from Booker T. Washington. There are two ways of exerting one's strength. One is pushing down, the other is pulling up. Our first guest today on the Leadership Voice is Sloane Keane. Sloane is the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Orange County and Inland Empire. Sloane Keane first got involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters organization in 2012 as a mentor to a 9-year-old from Santa Ana named Wendy. An experience that has forever changed her life. Inspired by the change that the organization was creating locally, Keane joined Big Brothers Big Sisters in 2013, and by 2018, she was named its CEO. Please welcome one of the most charismatic people I know, Sloane Keane.
Thank you, Jay. That was wonderful.
Maybe we can jump right in, and a lot of people probably know, have heard of Big Brothers Big Sisters, but could you share a couple of statistics or facts that some people may not be aware of?
Absolutely. You know, Big Brothers Big Sisters is a century-old organization, so you're correct. So the pleasure and the pain of being a brand name is that we've evolved. Mentorship has evolved a lot over the last century. So most people don't realize, certainly regionally here in Orange County, Riverside, and San Bernardino, that we support over 4,000 youth a year. So that's 4,000 youth who each have their own individual mentor. So essentially we are supporting through our 3 counties over 8,000 individuals who are engaged in either being a mentor or a mentee. So those numbers we're incredibly proud of and obviously looking to grow them. The other thing that I think is really interesting is, you know, Big Brothers Big Sisters was built out of the criminal justice system. It was originally designed to keep kids in school, out of jail, and on the straight and narrow path. And so we have been doing that for over a century, but flipping the script from a positive standpoint, having a mentor, being mentored through Big Brothers Big Sisters, makes you twice as likely to succeed post-secondarily. Makes you 17% more likely to make over $300,000 a year, more than a lot of our underserved youth who unfortunately have gone without a mentor. And so I think over the last century, not only are we keeping kids out of the criminal justice system, but we're also creating an amazing pipeline of jobs and breaking generational poverty within a lot of our communities right here at home.
And that's changed the whole trajectory of entire families.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And finally, you know, along the lines of that post-secondary success, we're really focused on workforce development. You know, what does it look like for each child that comes through our program with a mentor to achieve success? And that looks very different depending on who you are and what your aptitudes are, and very strongly believe that every child was born with potential, and it's our opportunity to ignite and expose and to grow it. So we're very excited about a lot of our partnerships with Fullerton, with Cal State Fullerton, with UCI, with Chapman, with a lot of our community colleges, to really focus on real tangible career technical tracks that our kids can sink their teeth into and that our mentors can help them persist and succeed through.
So Sloane, a person with your skills and talent, you could go anywhere and you could do anything. So why do you choose to bring your talents to Big Brothers Big Sisters? What draws you there and keeps you there?
There's a great quote that I once heard that I think resonates a lot with me, and thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. I've had a career in sales and marketing leading up to this point, and fairly successful. And somebody once said, the best nonprofit executives have been successful, and now they want to be significant. And so this is my opportunity to leave a legacy, to invest in our communities. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a mentor, and I really feel that it is our responsibility to leave this world a better place. And every day going to work and looking at the 4,000 youth that we're serving today, and hopefully the 5,000 and the 6,000, we're really changing people's lives. And that to me is significant.
And that's a great answer to why you're drawn to Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I can see it, and I think our audience can feel it when you describe those things. Yeah. So my next question is about how things have changed at Big Brothers Big Sisters because of the pandemic and this new normal that we're starting to sort of enter into. How has Big Brothers Big Sisters changed, and how do you see it continuing to change here in the new normal?
Well, we've all gotten used to the pivot, the new dance move, the post-COVID pivot. The only thing constant lately is change. So, somebody who is a bit of a disruptor, myself, I actually have sort of embraced and enjoyed some of the change. The change has led us to opportunities to look at things a little differently. We have, like everybody, for the last 18 months been struggling with how you get back to this personal connection, right, to the face-to-face. And as the most human brand in the planet, Big Brothers Big Sisters mentorship, that is where we thrive. That one-to-one connection is where we differentiate ourselves within the mentorship community, and really where we see all of our impact. So really, how do we harness what worked virtually? And then how do we bring back that connection in a meaningful and safe way has been sort of our opportunity as we move into, we say there is no back to normal, it is back to better. So as we move back to better, again, like most organizations and companies, we learned a lot through COVID. So how do we take what we've learned now and really apply that on making what our programs and our products look like? How do we make them look better? And that's the phase that we're in right now. So
how do you keep the spirit and the culture ready for the changes that seem to just never stop occurring?
Oh, this is my favorite. My favorite concept is we have to talk and embrace fear and failure. I think that oftentimes the biggest fear of change, right, is that we don't know what's coming next. So if we actually embrace that, if we like that, if we look at that as an opportunity versus a challenge and a disparity, then our teams become more innovative, we become better risk takers, and we embrace the fear and we channel it. And as a leader, in my personal opinion, that's my job. So my job is to help transition through change and do it in a way that we come out the back end smarter, better, happier, more productive, and investing into our communities.
That's super. So I've got one final question. So
we're done already?
Yeah, well, not yet. We're not done yet.
Okay.
So I have another question. And the next question is, if you were to give advice to a person that wanted to have a really high-level position in a purposeful organization, a charitable organization, a not-for-profit organization, what advice would you give an up-and-coming, aspiring executive that wanted to make their mark in this type of organization?
Well, I can give you the same advice I gave myself. Opportunity knocks. Sometimes it's softly, but you got to open that door. And you can't be afraid to taking a career shift and a change. I say it's the right turn, not the left turn. And I also think that the best executives come with just a repertoire of really great experience throughout for-profit, non-profit, any profit. The only difference between what a nonprofit contributes to our economy and a for-profit is a social ROI. And what is the value of a social ROI, in my opinion, is very, very high. So I would encourage a lot of successful executives to cross over into the nonprofit industry. It's time that you become very significant.
Yeah, and I love how you talked about transitioning success to, what was the term you used? Significant.
Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, I tell everybody, nobody ever regrets what they didn't do, right? So what you need to do is you need to seize the moment, you need to take the opportunity, you need to figure out how you're going to leave your own legacy. And I have found that getting into the nonprofit community, for me particularly mentorship, is something that I am very passionate about. I could probably ask you, Jay, who are the top 3 people, the mentors in your life, who have led you to where you are today? And it would be very easy to answer.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be a good nonprofit executive if I didn't plug this at the end. Everybody should take a look at who they're mentoring today. How are you making an investment? And if you're interested in doing more, please contact us. We'd love to meet you.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Sloane, for being on the show today. And you're going to stick around because we're going to have a leadership panel. We'll have you up here with Susan Parks. We're going to do a little bit of a panel discussion. So you'll stick around?
I love that. I would love to.
Terrific. It's now time for a featured segment of the Leadership Voice. It's today's Did You Know? Today's Did You Know comes from Independent Sector's Civil Society for the 21st Century. Contrary to popular belief, most nonprofits are not supported primarily by donations. 48% of revenue for public charities comes from fees for programs, goods, and services. 33% come from government, and 13% comes from philanthropic donations. It's now time for the Leadership Countdown. Today's Leadership Countdown comes from Conversation.com. A study in Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Quarterly identified the top 5 motivations for why people donate to charity. So here we go. Number 5, tax benefits. Number 4, egoism. Number 3, social. Number 2, trust. And the number 1 reason why people donate? Altruism. Please stick around. We have Susan Parks in the studio, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Well, we found here at Honda Center and the Anaheim Ducks that the Center for Leadership brings expertise in doing research, in doing training. The faculty that has come and given the training to our employees does all the research themselves. They're not pulling this information off the shelf. They're out there researching themselves, talking from firsthand experience, and it brings such a level of competency that we, again, don't find from other trainers that are on the market.
Well, simply put, is what really differentiates and distinguishes Fullerton and the Center for Leadership really is your expertise. You guys are able to create customized content for our business based on true research.
The faculty from Cal State Fullerton, obviously they're professors of their field. They have deep knowledge and research, but also, aside from the theory, they really bring in some practical examples, and they bring in a lot of interactive activities.
The Bringing Learning to Work initiative is our way of meeting the needs of Orange County businesses and communities. When our clients ask the Center for Leadership to come to bring learning to work, the clients know that they're getting cutting-edge information, the latest thinking in the field, but they're also getting world-class training. Welcome back to the Leadership Voice. Our next guest is Susan B. Parks, President and CEO of Orange County United Way. The United Way's mission is to improve lives and strengthen the Orange County community. Under Parks' leadership, the organization launched 3 key initiatives: United to End Homelessness, United for Financial Security, and United for Student Success. which tackle the Orange County community's most critical issues and seek to provide long-term solutions that break the cycle of poverty. Sue has received numerous accolades for both her business and civic leadership, including a recipient of the prestigious Center for Leadership's Excellence in Executive Leadership Award at the 2021 Annual Leadership Awards. Please welcome a great person and a terrific friend, Sue Parks.
Oh, Jay, thank you for that warm introduction. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Sue, it's so great to have you on the show. Let's jump right in. A lot of people have heard of the United Way, but could you share a few interesting or fun facts that people may not know?
Sure, thank you, Jay. And yes, many people know the United Way, but don't exactly know what we do, right? And so thank you for allowing me to share a little bit. We have 3 initiatives, as you shared in the introduction. So I'll do a little statistic around each. So United for Student Success, right now what we're doing is we're helping students from underserved backgrounds really get through the next few months so they graduate college and career ready. So we've got 300 students who we're helping get through this really critical part of time and get them excited about their future. So we do a lot with students and helping them all the way from early grade reading all the way up to getting them through graduation. We have a big effort around financial stability for families. And we help over 700,000 people here in Orange County every year. And this particular part, one fun thing that most people probably don't know is that right now we're recruiting 500 volunteers that help low-income families do their taxes, and we do that for free for them so they save the tax preparation money. But more importantly, we help them bring back the earned income tax credits that in many cases they don't know that they have coming. So last year, even in the middle of the pandemic, we helped 12,000 households and brought back $17 million into the community to help those families. How cool is that?
That is so cool.
Most people wouldn't know that. And then the third, United to End Homelessness, and so I'm going to make a huge plug to your many, many listeners to say we need apartments. We are ending homelessness for people in Orange County. To date, we've ended homelessness for almost 535 people here in Orange County in less than 3 years. And we could end homelessness for another 1,000 if people who have apartments just learned a little bit how they could have this great business model, great business for them, but they could do something for humanity too. It's so awesome. So again, I hope one statistic I can come back and share with you is homelessness has ended for another 1,000 people here in Orange County.
That would be a great thing to celebrate.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
It would be awesome.
And the community can all help. That's something everybody can help.
Now, Sue, you have had a thriving executive career. So what has drawn you to come to United Way and stay at United Way as its leader?
Yeah, I was in my corporate career when a long time ago, Jay, I don't know where you would have been, but it was like 2001, 2002. Somebody from Orange County United Way called me and asked me to get involved. And they asked me if I would help them start a women's giving circle, basically. And I didn't know many people because I had been traveling for my career for so long, and just I knew the people at United Airlines, and that I'd fly out every week. And so I said yes. And probably one of those things about leaning in and saying, you know, this really meant something to me because I knew I could get more connected to the community that I actually lived in, not necessarily where I worked at the time, but where I lived. And when I learned about what the United Way does, it so appealed to my strategic part of me. That's from my business, but it touched my heart because of the people we help every single day. And I love that combination of the head and the heart. And so when this opportunity presented itself and I realized I had the business experience, I had the entrepreneur experience, I had certainly been involved in the organization. I put my hat in the ring and I'm happy to be here. I love what I do. It's wonderful to wake up with purpose every day.
Isn't it amazing when you have purpose in the work that you do and you go to work, it almost just feels like a joy just to go.
Yeah, you're making a difference. And not that I didn't have joy in paper products or selling other things or, running other organizations, but this is truly different. It's truly different in the lives that we touch and the stories of the people we've helped.
Yeah, you really are changing lives and leaving a mark. So let's talk about the new normal and how things have changed for the United Way during these times and also as we enter into the new normal.
Yeah. Well, we did some things really very differently for us. It was right at the beginning of the pandemic. So, March in 2020. is that we realized it was going to be different. And we knew the people that we serve every day, the people who are already hardworking but so struggling to live here and make ends meet, and primarily in the service industry, we're going to hit the hardest. So we immediately started a pandemic relief fund. We had never done anything like this because of this amazing community that we lived in, and I think the trust in our brand. We were able to secure like $6.4 million in donation, and we turned those around primarily into $500 cards to give to people before any government assistance, to help them put food on their table, to help them close their rent, utilities. And our organization, Like You Get Weepy, just rose to the ability to do this. And so we all just kind of came together and said, you know, we can't let these families suffer while they're waiting for the things to happen in terms of additional aid. So we did things like that, and we've kept doing those things. We stepped up when emergency rental assistance needed to get out to people in the community, and since we had built the capacity in learning how to distribute all of those cards to help people, we were able to say yes and help distribute to over 9,000 family emergency rental relief, and it keeps going. And our traditional programs, we did a lot of the adapting and adjusting to move virtual as needed, hybrid as needed. And it keeps going. And some of the things that we've learned during the pandemic will absolutely make us stronger together.
And so as you think about the changes that you've had to make and the changes that the United Way has had to endure, how has it continued to thrive even during these difficult times?
I think because of the amazing community that we're in, and I think the work that we've done over the years, that, you know, there's a lot of trust. So if I think about where, you know, in the schools that we work with, we're a trusted partner. We've been there for so long that we really listen and not just say, these are the programs that we do, but what do you need? We want to know what is most needed for the families that you serve. And I think that ability to listen and say, okay, if that's not what need is now, we'll stop doing this, but we will do this, and we will make sure that this community moves forward. So a lot of adapting, a lot of listening, and a lot of just folks that really care about the community, our volunteers, our donors, our staff, the community coming together with us. It's been extraordinary.
Oh, that's terrific. So here's a chance for you to give advice to an executive at a not-for-profit. What advice would you give somebody, and maybe even somebody up and coming, for how to really thrive as a CEO of a non-for-profit, philanthropic type of organization?
Yeah, three things come to mind, and I'm sure there's a lot more, but obviously your team, you have to have a strong team, and so you really need to be listening and engaged and making sure that you have the right team, that team feels supported, because they have their own lives and they're struggling probably through some of this time too, right? So I can't express enough about making sure your people are good and they're in a good place with all this going on, or at least that they know that you're there and that you care. I think in terms of your programs, maybe these are the same programs that you've done for years. You have to relook at them, reassess. You have to learn what's going on in the market. Are they still the viable programs that you need? And not just do what you've traditionally done. If the time is right to change, make those tough choices to adapt and change. And then I tell a lot of my nonprofit friends, keep diversifying your revenue streams, because again, like, things change, right? One maybe big supporter moves out of the area and you need to change. So you need to be thinking about where your different revenue, if you're tied to events and all of a sudden pandemic hit and you can't do events, how are you going to money? So think about different revenue streams and how do you make that? So you have to, about your people, about your fewer products, and then again about how you run the cash, how you have the money coming in.
Oh, those are all great tips. I want to thank you, Sue, for being on the show today and joining us and sharing your wisdom with our audience. Can you stick around for our panel here in just a few minutes?
I would love to, Jay. Thank you.
Terrific. It's now time for our leadership example, brought to you by charitynavigator.com. We bring you the 10 most supersized charities in terms of annual expenditures. It's now time for our leadership lesson. Today's leadership lesson is being delivered by Professor Chethan Srikant.
Hi, I'm Dr. Chethan Srikant, and here's today's leadership lesson. After nearly 2 years of COVID and racial reckoning in this country, we are all asking, what is the new normal? What is the new normal for NPOs? The new normal will involve navigating societal minefields. Long-standing inequities remain unaddressed, and the pandemic only made things worse for the marginalized and the neglected. Nowadays, everything in our society gets scrutinized. What's more, people are willing to take actions based on their beliefs. Social media. We all know how that story goes. The warp speed at which unverified information spreads makes every molehill into mountains. NPOs will not be spared. The minefields will translate into certain operational challenges. Nonprofits will be expected to come up with miracle solutions in a very short time, severely testing your capacity and the ability to truly solve the issue. Even your convictions might be tested. Don't create more problems for yourself by becoming an elitist. Instead of imposing your worldview, engage and understand your target. Don't become a hypocrite. Do what you say you're going to do and admit mistakes before someone else uncovers it. At all costs, avoid becoming a partisan player. No political affiliations, and don't say anything remotely political. These are things you shouldn't do. So what should NPOs do? Set an example for upholding civility and morality in the society. Demonstrate that your actions have a real impact on people's lives. Finally, don't do it alone. Find partnerships in the unlikeliest of the places. Be open to working with others. That is how you will navigate the minefields in the new normal. And this has been today's leadership lesson.
Thank you, Professor Srikant, for that great leadership lesson. It's now time for our leadership panel. So here we go. First question will be for Sloane, but you'll both get to answer the question. Thanks again for rejoining us. Our first question is about wisdom. What have you learned about nonprofits that you wish you had known several years ago?
Ooh, great question. Wisdom is something that you earn, so you're using your words correctly. I probably underestimated the need for a dynamic executive within the world of nonprofit. We do more with less, which means that everybody you hire has to have a portfolio of real talent, and so in the course of becoming a great leader, because I feel like it's a journey, I have really surrounded myself with very dynamic people, and that's something I definitely underestimated moving into this position.
Well, that's terrific. What about you, Sue?
I think I'm going to change the question a little bit, if I may. And I think one of the things and I came from private industry, I came from a corporate background, and I really looked at the outcomes of an organization. And I led with outcomes of what was important to me, which is why I so love Orange County United Way, because everything we do is so measurable and very tangible, and that appealed to me besides the stories. But on the other side, so many people, often on the nonprofits, they'll start with like overhead rate and things like that. And I'm thinking, I want to turn that. I want people to be asking about outcomes. I mean, we're super proud of efficiency and overhead rates, but that isn't telling you the story of how impactful you are in the community. So I want more people to ask about impact.
Yeah, it sounded like we're a well-run organization versus we're an impactful organization.
And talk about the work you do and all that, and you can measure. And I think so many, because we're striving to do so much on a lean budget. I mean, the work that the nonprofit community does here in Orange County is amazing, amazing work. So focus on the outcomes and realize they're running businesses and they're doing everything they can with a lean budget.
Oh, terrific. All right, so let's go to our second question. Our second question is about mistakes. And Sue will go first. Can each of you please share a mistake you made, what you learned from it, and how it has made you a better leader?
So that I'm going, which one? Which one should I share? Many, because we all learn. That's how you learn, is by making mistakes. But I do remember one pivotal time, and I took a role in my corporate life where the last boss I had And they ended up going away and all that type of thing. And I had a thriving career there, but she always said I was too nice, and that always nagged me. And so the next position I took, I tried to be tougher. I tried to be not me. And you have to be your authentic self. Like it showed, it was a conflict for me every day just to be not warm and trying to really understand and learn from people. She was more like, and I tried a little bit of that tact, and it backfired because it's not me. So being authentic and your real self is important, and I learned that.
So know who you are and be who you are.
Yep.
No, that's great. What about you, Sloane?
I love that. I think that's so important. There's a statement that was on somebody's, one of my friend's kids, and it said, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." I think that's really great. I think it's really good. Well, along the same lines, some of the biggest mistakes I've made in my journey, and we use mistakes plural, right? Because I think it's important to know that the only way you learn is truly by failing, right? Or at least by not doing it well and figuring out how to do it better. But I think over managing situations, underestimating people's ability to receive feedback or to be able to react, or even to let them fail, frankly, has been many lessons that I have learned in leadership, and to really believe in the power of really empowering people to be who they are and really to fail, and then help them back up and realize you make every mistake once. And I think that's one of the bigger lessons I've learned as a leader.
No, I love that. And making every mistake once tells us that we've learned from those mistakes.
Yes, absolutely.
And I always say that if we make a mistake and we don't learn from it, then that mistake, the value from that mistake was lost.
Correct.
So we have one final question. It's actually time for the final word. So this is your chance to leave our viewers with the final pearl of wisdom or advice. And we'll start with Sloane. It's time for your final word.
Really embracing failure, realizing that life is a journey, and every single destination, every left or right turn leads you to where you're supposed to be, and trusting that. And I think that has served me well, and I hope it serves your audience well.
Terrific. Sue.
Well, it reminds me, I heard a story last week about somebody that we helped through the pandemic, and this is somebody that needed rent relief and lived in an apartment in Ladera Ranch, a nice place, obviously. Divorced dad, had always had a good job, but ended up in the pandemic getting in a home accident where he tripped on some laundry, hit his head, and ended up not being able to go back to work. His job was laid off because of the pandemic, and all of a sudden he's going to be about homeless. And it really struck me in how close people are sometimes to the edge that you don't really realize. And he did ask for help, and because he asked, he got help, and he's now got a new job. We've helped him with his rent. The service provider helped him through everything. So it's all really a good story. But if you need help, ask for it. This is an amazing community, and we can all come together and help those in need. And many people are just so close to being on the edge here in Orange County. So I just want to say thank you to the Orange County nonprofit community. Thank you to you for letting us share what we do, and we're all in it together. So that's my story.
That's great. That was a great final word. And there you have our final word. Thank you, Sloane and Sue, for joining us on today's show. If you have a question or need advice, send us your questions here to the Leadership Voice by email, leadershipvoice@fullerton.edu, or by Twitter @CSUF_leadership. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today's show. Today we explored the new normal in philanthropic organizations. Thank you again to Sloane Keane and Sue Parks for joining us. Also a special thanks to Chethan and Srikant for delivering today's leadership lesson. Join us each episode of the Leadership Voice as we bring you insights to guide your leadership development. I'm Jay Barbuto, and on behalf of the Center for Leadership at Cal State Fullerton, we'll see you next time right here on the Leadership Voice.